Welcome to SAT TV News. I am Larry LaRocque, your presenter. In our top stories, we have the results of the Roseau City Council elections. CIA accused of secretly collecting data on money transfers to the Caribbean. Lebanon blast hits Iran's embassy in Beirut. And in sports, West Indies announced 15-man squad to play a series of free tests in New Zealand. Details of these will follow. Welcome back. The government, through the Youth Development Division, hosted a youth employment forum in the community of Granby to speak on creating employment opportunities and sustainability. Parliamentary representatives from across the island, as well as government and private dignitaries, gathered at the Granby Community Centre to engage villagers from both the Granby and Petite Savanne constituency on the topic. Honorable Kenneth Darrow, parliamentary representative for the Petite Savanne constituency, speaking at the forum, noted unemployment is not unique to Dominica and referenced larger economies.
And it's not just a situation that is unique to Dominica. Most of you would have access to cable TV, internet, and mobile devices. And I'm sure every day you would see protests and all sorts of events taking place as related to the crisis that the world is going through. And we're talking about much more developed economies than Dominica, the Great Britain, even the great United States of America.
Acting Chief Youth Development Officer Mr. John Roach believes young people are often tight-lipped when put in a position to express their concerns. He believes this forum should act as a medium for persons to speak up. Mr. Brendan Defoe, Enterprise Development Officer DYBT, the Dominica Youth Business Trust, spoke at the forum and informed persons on the role of the organization in their small business ventures.
And to date, we have trained over 500 young people who are interested in starting their own small businesses. Alright? Now the reason for that training is twofold. It's one, to educate you on what you're actually going to need to start a small business. So even the people who have actually come to DYBT, you might have an idea of your business and you might not be ready. But that training will actually help you to make up your mind what you really want to do.
Special Projects and Communication Officer at the Agricultural Industrial Development Bank, AIDBank, Mrs. Josephine Titt, also gave a few tips on employment preparedness.
In terms of seeking employment, we'd like to encourage you to prepare for the job market. If you're applying to a particular institution, you need to learn as much as possible about the institution. You need to know what they do, you need to know who they serve, who their customers are, and you need to know what you can do to contribute a little more to the institution. You need to have a very formal approach to work. You should not take work casually or lightly.
She urged the entrepreneurs to be mindful of what they post on social media, including Facebook, as it could negatively affect their work. Ms. Matilda Popo, job developer at the Youth Development Division, spoke on the positive aspects of job development.
When we do skills training, we do what you call a holistic development. We want you not only to amass or acquire these skills, but we do what you call social skills. Can you imagine you come to a program and we can enable you to know how to talk effectively and professionally? We do listening skills. Many people can't listen, and sometimes I go close and I say, listen to yourself. Are you really saying good things to yourself? We teach you listening skills.
In addition to business and social skills, the organization teaches office etiquette to aid in the effective operation at a business institution. Later, Mr. Vincent Etienne, Director of the Small Business Support Unit, Employment and Small Business Support Agency, leveled with the participants, telling them on his very humble beginnings. According to Mr. Etienne, he left high school not knowing what he wanted to do or who he wanted to be until he met past Prime Minister Roosevelt Douglas, who urged him to shape his future and to take control of his own life.
Then I met this guy called Rosie Douglas, and he told me, boy, don't despair. There's a lot of things you can do.
You're not responsible for your complexion. You're not responsible for your relatives that did terrible things, I had an uncle that was a drunkard and that kind of thing. He told me, what you can do is shape your future. But from early, when I met Rosie, he told me, what we're going to do? There are some things you're going to be doing. If you want to be successful and sit down on the table today like I'm sitting, there are a few things you need to do. One, he said, is that you need to educate yourself.
The former Prime Minister urged him to maintain a good character and surround himself with positive persons. This, Mr. Etienne believed, made him the person he is today. In more news, the Caribbean Male Action Network, CARIMAN, since its establishment, has played an avid role in bringing men and organizations together throughout the Caribbean, engaged in work with and for men. On November 19th, CARIMAN joined Dominicans in the observance of International Men's Day, IMD, focusing mainly on the role men play in the lives of their children, significantly boys. Led by the theme, Keeping Men and Boys Safe, International Men's Day aimed to provide the opportunity to raise the profile of men and boys and to place greater emphasis on the positive contribution as co-partners in shaping family, society and country. Mr. Joseph, a representative of the Agana program, highlighted a few of the issues that will be addressed throughout the week.
The activities began more or less on Monday in recognizing the specific occasion, and those who are seated here and part of the panel, one way or the other, they work with young people, they work with men, and there's some level of impact on the work that they undertake. So the purpose of having these agencies here is basically in collaborating. They work together, which is on a normal basis, from a professional basis, goes on. We've been to a number of places, and the activities will continue today and tomorrow. And part of what we wish to highlight is looking at the negative impact of drugs on relationships with family, friends, and teachers, and also on their education.
President of CARIMAN, Mr. Thomas Holmes, said, as part of the activities carried to commemorate IMD was a visit to the St. Mary's Primary School. Mr. Holmes emphasized on the four main areas that CARIMAN intends to concentrate on throughout this week's activities.
Now, International Men's Day this year, as I said, the theme is keeping men and boys safe. And then we have four main areas that you're looking at. Number one, we are looking at keeping men and boys safe by tackling male suicide. Keeping them safe so that they can become tomorrow's role models. Keeping men safe so that we can tackle the tolerance of violence against men and boys, and also boosting men's life expectancy by keeping men and boys safe from avoidable illness and death.
He's urging Dominicans to look up to the positive role models that are in society, as these are the men who contribute positively in various aspects of life.
And very often we look at the negative. Yes, we have some young men, some boys, involving themselves in antisocial behavior, but we also have many boys, many young men, and many men who are very positive and do many positive things. So we need to really talk about the achievements of our men. We have many men in our schools, at our workplaces, in the social services. We have positive, good role models at the police, at the prisons. In politics, we have a young prime minister, we have a young leader of opposition, we have young parliamentarians. So these people, we have to celebrate the achievements.
International Men's Day started in Trinidad on November 19th, 1999. In other stories, on Tuesday, November 19th, in aiding the fight against cancer, the FCIB, First Caribbean International Bank, donated a check of $3,010 to the Dominica Cancer Association. Business Support Officer of FCIB, Ms. Rona Lawrence, says this donation was part of an initiative of a program launched by the bank in 2012 titled Work for the Cure across the region. This was done to assist cancer societies in various countries.
cancer is not the friend of anybody, and cancer touches the lives of everybody. And it is sad to say that we at First Caribbean, although not in Dominica, but in some of the other territories, there are staff who have died of cancer, and there are staff who have friends, relatives, parents who are either living with cancer or have died with cancer. So the bank saw it as a fitting way, of being there for the employees, its employees who are ever affected by cancer, and they saw that as a fitting way of, reaching out to the communities.
She said such donations will be maintained while they continue to participate in activities of the association. Cancer Care Coordinator of the Dominica Cancer Association, Mrs. Vina Roy, accepted the check, noting that she did so with great gratitude and pleasure.
It is really heartening to us to have corporate citizens like you all come on board. We remind people every day that cancer is a friend of nobody, and it hits every business place, it touches every home, and so we are happy when others share our concern and demonstrate that by what you just did this morning.
Mrs. Roy thanked the bank and the other corporate citizens who participated with the bank for this donation. A special thank you went out to all media houses who aid the association in raising awareness on cancer. Good evening, we are with Acting Chief Elections Officer Ms. Anita Rodney, who will inform us as it relates to the results from the November 18th Roseau City Council elections. Okay, Ms. Rodney, could you enlighten us as it results to who topped the polls in the various wards?
Okay, well, the elections have conducted within 3 wards, that is Ward 4, Ward 1, and Ward 2. In Ward 1, we had Corinthia Black topping the polls with 296 votes. Albert Dyrample came second with 275 votes. We had Samantha Nichols polling 233 votes, and Cleveland for polling 204 votes. So Corinthia Black and Albert Dyrample will be part of the Roseau City Council.
These were the top persons. What happens after?
Well, the top persons, as I said, Corinthia Black and Albert Dyrample, they have been elected to form part of the Roseau City Council. We have ward number 2, and that's we had 2 persons topping. We had Rhea Bruman topped with 302 and Vanessa Prevost with 299. So these 2 persons will form part of the Roseau City Council. We have Veronica Juliana Frederick, she came 3rd with 298 votes, and Erickson Roman 4th with 272 votes. In Ward 4, we had Regina Walsh, 239 votes, Kelda Kimano Ito, 233 votes. We had Anwa Cadet coming 3 with 227 votes, and Georgette de Ravere with 203 votes. In Ward number 3, there was no election. That is because 3 persons were nominated, but 1 pulled out. He withdrew his nomination. So Irene John and Daniel Luge, they are duly elected.
Okay, as it relates to the voter turnout for the respective wards, how was it?
In Ward number 4, we had a voters turnout. We have 414 official persons on the official list of electors, and we only had 518 voters in that ward.
Oh no, that's 4,014
electors on the list, and we had a turnout of 518 voters. That's a percentage of 12.90. In ward number 1, 4,055 voters on the electors list, and we had a turnout of 531 persons. That is 13.9%.
Well, what would you say contributed to such a low voter turnout in the various wards? Were people just really not interested in what goes on in the city council elections, or?
Well, we'll have to really maybe have that conclusion, but the election, it was properly advertised, the notices were put out, and everything was in place. However, the turnout was very low. I really do not know what really is the reason, but the electoral office did what it had to do.
Those are both victorious. What happens from then on?
Well, as I told you, they would form part of the Roseau City Council election. The rest will be dealt with by the local government commissioner. Local government will be responsible for the rest. But what the electoral office is responsible for is the organizing of the election, ensuring that the elections are done in accordance to the law.
Were there any flaws during the election time?
No, we had no problem. Everything was smoothly run. The results were in and everything went well. The final count went well. We did not have any problem.
So the only disappointing aspect was the voter turnout?
Right, the low voters turnout.
Any message you'd want to send to those who will form part of the Roseau City Council? They are young persons who might not necessarily have the full experience. Any message you'd want to send to these persons?
Well, I would just like to advise them to do their best. They opted to go up for the election, that is because I suppose they wanted to perform and do something for their city. So I'm just wishing them luck, and I just hope that they just do their best.
Thank you very much, Pam.
Welcome.
In more stories, elections for the Roseau City Council took place on Monday, November 18th, where registered voters in Roseau and environs cast their votes. One businessman says whoever is successful will have their work cut out for them as it relates to parking in the city.
Roseau is suffering from parking congestion because the present mayor, his last day today, Mr. Cecil Joseph, together with the transport board, they turned Roseau into a bus terminal. You cannot do that in front of every supermarket. In front of every corner is a bus station. You cannot have buses parking in Roseau. The city is a bus parking terminal. We need to have a northbound bus terminal. We need to have a southbound bus terminal to ease up the parking congestion in Roseau.
Mr. Karam is of the view that Roseau cannot accommodate over 1,000 buses, many of which are parked in the city during the day, adding to the congestion. With this congestion, Mr. Karam noted, the Chief of Police has seen the need to issue a total of 50 keep clear signs for Roseau, as many business owners have been complaining about the parking discomfort experienced on a daily basis.
You cannot have people blocking the front doors of people's business houses with impunity, my brother. People want to be able to move in and out with their cargo, loading and unloading. They want Acme Garage Karam Limited. We need access for our customers. We're in and out all day long. We have to go road test vehicles. I can't be running, looking around. Is that your vehicle, sir? Sir, can I please get a little break for me to come out, sir? I have to beg you to come out of my property. So you can just lock a person into their property. They have no entry, no exit, no access. The customers must have access to our properties, our business houses in town, to be able to work comfortably, to pay our taxes. That is my concern. Stop these bus terminals in Roseau, clear the buses out of town, and Roseau will have plenty space for everybody to park.
Mr. Karam, who has had a long sidewalk boundary dispute with the mayor of Roseau, His Worship Cecil Joseph, said he was indeed surprised that on the day of the Roseau City Council elections, employees of the Roseau City Council came to clean the drain in front of his business place, as they were left unattended by the City Council for the past 3 years.
And I just couldn't understand. So I said to myself, maybe he's throwing out a sign of peace. He wants to go out in peace, and I bid him well. I wish him well in his retirement. You know, I mean, he realizes that it was a futile, what can I say, transaction he attempted on us when he declared war on us over our parking lot. 3 surveyors proved to us, 3 of them, that our Acme Garage vehicles are parked on our property.
He added, he wishes Mr. Joseph long life and a good retirement, saying he forgives him for the dispute. And in court news, bail is closed for Cornelius Joseph C.J. Thomas, who has been charged for attempted deception. The charge states that on 11th November 2013 at Roseau, Thomas dishonestly issued the National Cooperative Credit Union NCCU check in the amount of $35,205 for the purchase of 10 tickets, knowing that the account had insufficient funds to clear the check. Suspicion was raised after media reports surfaced out of Grenada accusing Thomas of making off with $100,000 on the Saving Souls concert held in that island in June of this year, featuring Pastor Donnie McClurkin. Thomas had been in Dominica for weeks promoting a similar event, Saving Souls concert featuring Vershawn Mitchell, carried for Friday, November 15th at the Newtown Savannah. The concert never materialized and Thomas was arrested outside of Q95 studio on Friday morning. Although the prosecution objected to bail on the grounds that the defendant was a flight risk and had made several attempts to escape police custody, Thomas's attorney Jeffrey later indicated that he was not making a bail application at this point. Magistrate Candia Courage George informed the defendant that his bail was closed at the moment. The offense is indictable and will be taken before judge and jury after the preliminary inquiry charged for 21st January 2014. This has been the local segment of the news. Coming up next, regional highlights.